What is up, everybody? It's your boy Bobby from Bobby's Breakdowns, and today we are going to be doing another Christmas review. I have my Merry Christmas sweater on. I got the elf hat on, just for fun. Gotta go festive with these things, you know? But yes, we are going to be reviewing one of the best Christmas movies ever, in my opinion. Christmas Vacation, starring Chevy Chase. I absolutely love this movie. We're gonna see why, because I think it's a classic and it's rated one of the highest. But yes, with that being said, let's dive right in. We start off and we see the Griswolds going to get their Christmas tree. Clark Griswold, played by Chevy Chase, like I said. And eventually there's somebody coming up from behind him. He's right on Chevy Chase's bumper, Clark Griswold. And eventually they fight back and forth. Clark gets in front of him. He gets in front of him again. And it leads to just so much chaos. Eventually, Clark is like, I got him. So he shifts over into the other lane and he's completely under like an 18-wheeler truck. And he's like, what do we do here? So eventually the guy in the pickup truck blows past him. Clark eventually swerves off the road over a hill and into a snow patch, and it did not go as planned for the Griswolds at the beginning. Next, we are at the Griswold house, and they are putting up the family Christmas tree, and it is way too big. Like, they cannot even fit a star on it. It's being bent down from the top, of course. You know, at first, they can't. So eventually, Clark comes out with the Jason Voorhees mask on with a chainsaw, dun dun, and it looks like a horror movie, but the neighbors see him and they're like, hey, Griswold, and he just looks like, you know, it's not supposed to be horror at all. But we finally meet the neighbors. The woman is played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, aka Elaine from Seinfeld. There's a lot of decent-sized names in this movie. They're not main characters, but they have side character roles. And yeah, we meet the neighbors who hate the Griswolds, or maybe just Clark. We then go to Clark's job. He tells a coworker, who is played by the actor who plays Supervisor O'Boyle from King of Queens. He's in maybe like 20 episodes in total, so that's another name that I at least recognized. He wants to get a pool with the Christmas bonus that he's getting from his company, and he's just hoping the bonus covers it. The bonus plays a pivotal part in this movie, folks. We meet Clark's boss, Frank, who is played by Bill Murray's brother. Clark thanks him for the Christmas card, and Frank, the boss, has no idea what he's talking about. He's like, okay. Now that's funny in real life because I think it was before this movie, Bill Murray and Chevy Chase got into a fist fight on the set of Saturday Night Live, so kind of funny how that works. We finally get to around Christmas time, and Ellen's family is there for Christmas, and they aren't great. It's just chaotic. One of the characters is played by the mother from Everybody Loves Raymond, another name. And yeah, it's just chaos. Clark is setting up the Christmas decorations outside, and they won't work. And of course, nothing works because everybody's out there, and they're like, yeah, whatever. Clark tries again. He plugs it in at the same time as one of the women in the family turn on a switch. And he lights it up, and nobody's out there to see. He's like, guys, it's working. She switches it off, and it goes off, and he's like, what? And he can't figure it out, and it's just so funny. And then Ellen comes out. She's trying to help him. She flips the switch on. Guys, and she figures out it's the switch. So they're, joy to the world. Hallelujah. Iconic scene. Hands down, one of my favorite of the movie. So while they're celebrating, the lights coming on, everybody's outside. Clark puts his arm around Cousin Eddie, and Cousin Eddie's like, yeah, it looks great. And Clark says, yes, it does, Eddie. And then, give it a couple seconds. Eddie. Cousin Eddie just showed up out of nowhere. Played by Randy Quaid, iconic character, even though how I feel about him in real life. Like I said, it takes a minute for Clark to realize. Eddie brings his wife, his 2 kids, and his dog for Christmas. Cousin Eddie's just an absolute lunatic, but iconic character, and Randy Quaid played it brilliantly. Yeah, he drops in unannounced, but that's not the worst thing he does in this movie that was unannounced. So the whole movie, Clark talks to his boss, Frank, a couple times, and Frank doesn't know his name. Frank barely remembers who he is. So Clark comes in with a Christmas gift, And Frank's all the way down at the other end of this ginormous table. You see Frank squinting. He goes, yeah, just drop him off with the other ones, Griswold. And Clark's like, okay, no problem. And Clark tries to make small talk with him, and Frank picks up the phone. And he goes, get me somebody. Anybody, just to get out of the conversation. He wants nothing to do with Clark or talking to him. Oh, man. Then we go back to the Griswold house. We see Cousin Eddie outside in another iconic scene, emptying the septic tank in his bathrobe. The neighbor comes out, smells, and Cousin Eddie sees him. Merry Christmas! So stupid, but so funny. Then we get to Christmas Eve. Ellen's Aunt Bethany and Uncle Francis show up, and they are not right in the head. They ask Ellen, did you ever end up marrying Clark? Clark's the husband. Is Rusty in the Navy? The son, who is like 10 or 11. Yeah. So like I said, we're at Christmas dinner. The cat that Bethany and Francis brought goes after the tree. It's not the first time the tree gets involved in this. Clark finally gets what he thinks is his Christmas bonus. The mail guy showed up to the door. He said, fell between the seats. I'm sorry. Here you go. Clark is all excited. And then he finds out it's a membership to the Jelly of the Month Club. Clark is irate. He says, I wish my boss was here right now. Eddie hears that and leaves. We'll get back to that. And like I said, this wasn't the last time the Christmas tree played a part in this movie. Eventually, a squirrel somehow gets in there. Squirrel jumps out, runs. He runs up the stairs as everyone is chasing him up the stairs. And then in a very funny scene, everyone comes running down the stairs and the squirrel is chasing them down the stairs. Cousin Eddie's dog, Snots, who has a lip fungus that hasn't been identified yet, another infamous line. Snots chases after the squirrel and all chaos erupts. Elaine, the neighbor, knocks on the door and she wants to tell them to be quiet and that Clark can't talk to them like that. As soon as she goes to open the door, Clark opens the door to let the squirrel out. Squirrel jumps on her. Snots jumps on her as well, and she gets ripped to shreds. Clark then calmly just goes, he's gone. So then we go to Frank's house. Eddie has kidnapped Clark's boss. And he brings him back to the house. So they're at the house. Clark is reading The Night Before Christmas. I think everything's calm. Clark has calmed down. Then he sees Eddie walking up with a man in chains who is Clark's boss. So eventually the guy, Frank, says, yeah, Clark, you're fired. And Clark's like, yeah. So Clark tells him, he goes, you can't do what you did with the Christmas bonuses. He's like, if you don't want to give bonuses, fine. But when people count on them as their salary, it's a shady move. And Frank realizes, he goes, sometimes ideas look good on paper, but when you see how it affects people, it's not good. So he goes, whatever you got last year, give yourself an extra 20%. And Clark's jaw drops and he faints. So they get Clark back up. He's happy. He's like, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. And as that's happening, the cops bust through the windows because Frank's wife called and said they kidnapped him. They have everybody frozen. The one cop says, freeze, freeze. And every other cop freezes. He goes, not you, them. And they all unfreeze. So Frank's wife shows up. That's the man who kidnapped my husband, points at Eddie. Eddie's like, And he's like, oh, no, I'm not pressing charges. He goes, it was a misunderstanding and we're good. And she finds out he cuts the Christmas bonuses. And she's like, oh, what a cheap way to do that. So somehow through all this chaos, the decoration Santa gets shot up into the sky. I don't know how, but Aunt Bethany puts her hand over her heart and she starts singing the national anthem. And everyone joins in. And I mean everyone, including the police that just tried to take them down. They're all singing. They're all getting into it. And Clark sees a comet go across the sky and he's like, oh, it was a pretty Merry Christmas. Nice end to the movie. They're all partying to end the official movie. Even the police again. They're drinking, they're having a good time, they're celebrating. It's nice. And that's the end to Christmas Vacation. I love this movie. I make sure I watch it every single year. And if you haven't seen it, I don't know where you've been for the last 30 years, because it came out in actually, I think it came out in the 70s. Yeah, it did. So yeah, I don't know. If you haven't seen it by now, what are you doing? And that's it for another Christmas review. I got 2 more coming to you guys this month, and then I think that's it on the channel for the year of 2023. Crazy. But yes, I wanted to get festive for this. I wanted to wear my elf hat that clearly doesn't fit anymore. I don't know how this is going to work with the green screen, but we'll see. My Merry Christmas sweater. I love this one. Bought it a few years ago. And yeah, that's it. Like I said, I got 2 more coming to you. By the time this comes out to you, check out my Christmas stream. It will be in replay. And yeah, with that being said, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button. We're almost at 800, folks. And with that being said, I'm Bobby from Bobby's Breakdowns, and I will see you in the next one. Later.